What's up, everybody? Welcome into another YouTube live show. I am John Kurtz. It has been a wild week at ACC meetings, to say the least. Everybody reporting all sorts of different angles out of that, but it's not just what we're hearing from the ACC and Commissioner Jim Phillips. It's not just what we're hearing from Florida State and Athletic Director Michael Alford. It's even what we're hearing from the North Carolina Board of Trustees, which obviously not all of that is taking place at ACC meetings, but the same week, we've got the Board of Trustees popping off. We've got comparisons being made to the way UNC is posturing itself right now to how Florida State was posturing itself right before they actually opted to sue the ACC. So there's lots of speculation that North Carolina is going to be next and be next soon. Oh, by the way, Ross Dellinger wrote a piece for Yahoo Sports that called the next 2 weeks potentially the most important 2 weeks in college athletics history as we barrel toward a potential settlement in the House case. So we have an update on all of that too, and where that may wind up taking us. It's just like major story after major story. There are all sorts of little angles about what is coming out of ACC meetings. Matt Baker had a ton of reporting on it. Brett McMurphy had, to me, probably the best and most insightful piece that we're going to read from. Brian Murphy, who works for WRAL in North Carolina, did a tremendous job reporting on a lot of this. He got the money quote from the North Carolina Board of Trustees. I mentioned the Ross Dellinger story. I'm just scrolling through. The Ross Dellinger story even has a very important bit here on what is going to happen with NIL and this wild, wild west of NIL that we're in right now. Unfortunately, it does not look like anything that would happen in a potential settlement is going to curb that. So that's just buried here deep in this story, right? Everybody that's worried about the current state of NIL, it doesn't look like that's really going to change all of that much with the settlement coming. UCLA, they're only going to have to pay $30 million. Put out the video earlier today about them having to pay $60 million. That was just before it came out that, at least for right now, all they're going to have to pay is $30 million. It will be revisited at that point, but they got a bit of a break. All sorts of stuff on the board. I'm laughing because as you guys, if you follow all the content, have noticed, I have started doing some more YouTube shorts, trying to get into the TikTok game a little bit because I'm really on top of it. I wait until it's going away to actually get in on it. But I had jotted down there a note to perhaps do a video on the Doug Gottlieb situation. If anybody is following that, Doug Gottlieb is going to coach a basketball team, Wisconsin Green Bay, while also still simultaneously doing his radio show. No idea how that's exactly supposed to work. But Doug Gottlieb is going to try it. So look, college athletics, it's a wild, wild freaking place right now. Wild place. And a lot is happening. Okay, so a couple of reminders here before I get going in earnest. I will tell you, as I mentioned, I'm trying to get some of the other channels and places to follow me going. So make sure you follow on Facebook, John Kurtz Show on Facebook. All the links are in the description of the video, but John Kurtz Show on TikTok, same on Instagram. Trying to get all of those going. So make sure you go follow me in all those different places. More chances for you to interact with me as well in each one of those places. And if you want to be a part of the show tonight, you guys know the drill. Click the $ below the chat box in order to submit your donation and be a part of the live show tonight. You can attach your question or comment, of course. Make sure that you get on, control the content that is rolling through the show tonight, as well as just make your voice heard and support the work that I'm doing to bring you this conference realignment, college football, college basketball content on a week in, week out basis. Could not do it without all of your guys' support. So I much, much, much appreciate those of you who do support the show. Really, truly do appreciate you doing that. You can also support the show totally free just by giving me one click. Just like the video. Much appreciate everybody who hops in on that. That is great as well. Totally free. One click. Very easy. Just like that video. Leave the comments in the comment section of the video. Keep them in the live stream. All of that stuff really helps as well. And if you want to be a part of the show and you're not watching live, you can do so on Venmo. It is John-Kurtz-4 on Venmo in order to do that. If you would like to be a part of the show, you can leave your question or comment there, and I will read it to start the next show. So it's not only a way for you to support the channel, but a way for you to still have your voice be heard. If you guys listen, you know that we have plenty of people who do that. So lots of ways to get involved. Make sure to continue to follow me. In fact, let me put the banner here, get some banner advertising going. As we dive into more about what's happening in the ACC, it has been a bit wild. We're going to start with Brett McMurphy's reporting and his story here from Amelia Island, Florida. Fabulous this time of year, I'm sure. I've never been to Amelia Island, Florida. But Brett McMurphy says a quick recap from Wednesday's final day of ACC spring meetings. Florida State and Clemson desperately want out, but the ACC isn't going down without a fight, preferably a long, exhausting, drawn-out melee. That is going to be the theme of a lot of what we talk about and a lot of what has been reported and what we're going to read here. Let me just go ahead and say, I kind of am here for this because this is frankly what the ACC should do. It felt like there was the one line, and maybe we all made too much of this, but there was one line in some of the legalese and the legal documents from earlier on, certainly in the process, because it's now been 6 months since Florida State sued the ACC, which is wild. But earlier on in that process, we read a line from the ACC side of things that made it seem like everybody jumped to the conclusion and assumed that, oh, hey, this is the ACC saying that like settling is definitely an option and like settling is going to be on the table. And I think a lot of people figured that's where this was going to go. Clearly, that is what Florida State and Clemson want. And Doug Rohan, who came on the channel, had made mention of that potentially is a strategy, a legal strategy for Florida State, why they're trying to go low, sling some mud around because they just want to push the ACC to a point where they would just say, to hell with this, let's just settle. So there's that, but this is making it sound much, much, much more like the ACC is not at all going to give in. And they're going to say, like, look, you guys are acting like crazy, petulant children trying to get out of here. That's fine. Kick and scream. Use all your energy. We'll just stand here, calm, let it happen, and not settle. That is the way you should fight it if you're the ACC. Like, what do you have to lose? Because if they're gone, if they find a way to get out, more are going to follow. It will be the end of the conference. So there quite literally is no other choice here, really, for the ACC. It's either just give in or at least try to fight. Are you going to fight to your death, or are you going to just lay over and die? Even if the outcome, the final outcome is going to be the same. So this really is about the only thing you can do for the ACC. Florida State and Clemson want to skip off to greener pastures and larger media rights paydays in the Big Ten or SEC as soon as possible. However, the ACC is using a strategy from an ACC legend, former UNC coach Dean Smith's four corners offense, to take the air out of Florida State and Clemson's attempts to leave the league. Using stall ball at its finest, the ACC is in no hurry to reach a settlement with either school. It realizes if Florida State and Clemson exit, they might start a conga line out the door. ACC sources said the league will fight the Florida State and Clemson lawsuits to the nth degree. So this is pretty important here. Brett McMurphy, very well-connected guy. His sources are telling him Florida State and Clemson are going to get a fight to the nth degree from the ACC. Can you force a school to remain in a conference? No, but you can refuse to settle and make it as costly as possible. Not just in what they would have to potentially pay to get out of it, but just keep cranking up those legal fees, man. Billable hours certainly appear that they're going to stay undefeated in the ACC. Much like Florida State last year. Look at that. Florida State and billable hours. Something in common, both of which will also not be competing for a college football playoff title. Sorry about that, FSU. I kind of botched the joke there too. ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips said he's optimistic that Florida State and Clemson relationships can be salvaged, which, what else is he going to say, right? Like Jim Phillips, I saw he did like a 15-minute media session. He's getting pinned down by the media here. What the hell else is the guy going to say? you got to maintain at least like some little level of optimism there, even if you also have to acknowledge what's really going on. But Jim Phillips also added, quote, "Am I going to fight and protect the ACC? Absolutely." So he's optimistic the relationships can be salvaged, but he's also not going to give in. I mean, am I going to fight and protect the ACC? Absolutely. It's Jim Phillips telling you the deal right there. What Brett McMurphy reported earlier on, he is saying, look, yeah, we're going to fight this, man. We are not going to just lie down for them. It's already been nearly 6 months since Florida State filed its lawsuit against the ACC on December 22nd, 2023. And then good line here from my guy, Brett McMurphy. Time flies when you're getting sued. And Clemson filed a lawsuit against the ACC on March 19th. So we're almost 2 months in on Clemson. We are almost 6 months in on Florida State. And North Carolina is on billable hours watch here. Maybe even upgraded to billable hours warning. We're probably teetering on that. And we'll get to that later on with the comments made by the Board of Trustees there. But have the Magnificent Seven schools been reduced to double trouble? Quote, "It's difficult, it's disruptive, it's harmful, but that's the world we live in," Jim Phillips said. Ironically, the conclusion of the ACC's 2024 spring meetings was exactly a year to the day that news broke about the Magnificent Seven schools that have been talking behind the scenes about how to improve their situation and potentially create their own conference. So the Magnificent Seven, Clemson, Florida State, obviously Miami, North Carolina, NC State, Virginia, Virginia Tech. That's your Magnificent Seven. They all fully participated in spring meetings this year, along with soon-to-be new members, Cal, Stanford, and SMU, that Florida State and Clemson are just so thrilled about. On day one of the meetings, UNC Board of Trustee member Dave Bullock said he was advocating for the Tar Heels to join a higher revenue league like the SEC or Big Ten. So there you go. North Carolina Board of Trustees getting restless. Natives are getting restless in North Carolina. Dave Bullock said he was advocating for the Tar Heels to join a higher revenue league like the SEC or Big Ten. Quote, "That's what we need to do," Bullock said in a board meeting back in North Carolina. "We need to do everything we can to get there. Or the alternative is the ACC is going to have to reconstruct itself. I think all options are on the table." So Bullock putting out their Frankenstein ACC conference as a possibility. How about that? Theory that some have certainly talked about, basically the Magnificent Seven, like getting together, forming its own league, splitting the revenue 7 ways instead of all the ways that they are splitting it now. I forget, is the ACC at 14? The ACC's got to be at 14, right? Splitting it all the ways that they're splitting it right now, which in turn would make everybody more money. Phillips, though, Jim Phillips downplayed those comments as campus discussions and politics. Jim Phillips just writing it off. And really, Jim Phillips is probably saying, look, we're going to fight Florida State and Clemson. We're not settling. We're not giving in. North Carolina, you want to get involved with this too? Have fun. Billable hours for you. Attorneys that are representing North Carolina, get ready to get rich. Get ready to get paid, boys, because we'll let you do it. And we're just going to, I kind of feel like it's like just holding like a toddler at arm's length while they try to run at you, and you just keep holding them there. Like, all right, little tyke, man, just keep spinning your wheels. We'll see what happens. Meanwhile, Florida State's Board of Trustees previously said they wanted an exit plan from the ACC by August 2024. Whew, boy. So they asked Michael Alford about that, Florida State's athletic director, this week, and he said, quote, "That's a legal proceeding that I can't cover." Alford was asked how long an exit from the league might take. Quote, "If you go back to the president, myself, we've never come out and said, hey, we want to leave the conference. We have not notified the league that we are leaving." Yeah, so here's another piece of this that was weird from this week. Michael Alford at Florida State continues to say, we've never come out and said, hey, we want to leave the conference. We have not notified the league we are leaving, which, first of all, okay, maybe there hasn't been a direct quote that we can attribute to you that's been public to say, we want to leave the conference. But every single action that you've taken has very much indicated that. And we all got to see the board meeting. You guys live streamed the board meeting where everybody in there was saying, hey, by hook or by crook, we're getting out of this thing. Like, we are going to find a way out. Drew Weatherford was very specific about the need to get out. So even if it has not been directly the president or the AD, they have found ways to communicate their message very loud and clear. So it's disingenuous at the very least a little bit, that statement. But Brett McMurphy actually pushes back on this, saying actually they have notified the league that they're leaving. In FSU's December lawsuit against the ACC, buried on page 32 of FSU's 38-page complaint, item number 151 says, Florida State be deemed to have issued its formal notice of withdrawal from the ACC under section 1.4.5 of the ACC Constitution effective August 14th, 2023. And God, reading direct quotes from that, like from the legal documents, it's where I just look around and I'm like, what are we doing here? How are we here in college athletics? We're like, this is what it means to run a college athletics channel in the year 2024. But hey, it is what it is. ACC sources said even though it's in Florida State's lawsuit, it considers the written notice of withdrawal, quote, a legal maneuver. I would just push back and be like, look, man, Alford, you can say what you want. We all know what the reality is. You guys very badly want to leave. You've had other people put that message out there, and you've even officially put it in legal documents, but as apparently just a legal tactic. Whatever, Florida State. We know what you're doing. We know what you're doing. McMurphy says, so for now, Florida State remains an ACC member, but for how much longer? Both Phillips and Alford said everything remains professional and both parties are working together. McMurphy says, I cannot confirm if either one of them had their fingers crossed or not. Definitely the toes crossed, at least. You know, that could be a pro move there. You know, no one's going to be looking at your toes. If it's the fingers, that could be easily discerned somewhere. If you got them behind your back, in your pocket, maybe. It'd be a little tougher to keep the fingers crossed hidden from everybody as opposed to the toes crossed. As far as the ACC's desire to settle with Florida State or Clemson, the percentage chance is between 0 and a number less than 0. So this is even going further, man. We had the quote earlier about the fact that they were going to really dig in and fight on this. Let me find that one specifically. The ACC sources said the league will fight the Florida State and Clemson lawsuits to the nth degree. Can you force a school to remain in a conference? No, but you can refuse to settle and make it as costly as possible. As far as the ACC's desire to settle with Florida State or Clemson, the percentage chance is between 0 and a number less than 0. That means it's a -% chance that they would actually settle. Multiple ACC sources said this week the league has, quote, absolutely no incentive to settle with the two schools. And so I guess we had kind of looked at this previously. Maybe I shouldn't speak for everybody. I had kind of looked at this previously as, well, Florida State is going into all these crazy things like John Swofford's son and the relationship with Raycom, and oh boy, they are not going to want to deal with that. They won't want to get down in the weeds with all of that. But really, I guess the ACC would just kind of be like, okay, whatever. Swofford's not even the commissioner anymore. Why do we really care? Have fun. Keep doing this. Keep spinning your wheels. We'll be here. We'll be chilling. I mean, that's really the way that it feels. FSU's general counsel has estimated it would cost $572 million to exit the ACC and break free from the league's grant of rights that runs through 2036. However, FSU claimed in a lawsuit that the ACC's deal with ESPN includes an option that the network must execute by February 2025 to extend the deal through 2036. If not executed, ESPN could walk away in 2027. We're working with ESPN on a piece of the contract, Phillips said. The partnership is not going away or being affected in a negative way at all. You know, that, I guess, I haven't seen any real chatter about that. I understand, again, you got to take it with a grain of salt a bit. But that's kind of Jim Phillips saying ESPN's not going to cut this contract off in February. Which, you know, there was an Andy Staples on 3 article from a couple of months ago that I had pulled recently that we were reading from where he was speculating about, like, hey, would ESPN take a peek at this? I mean, they got to make a decision in February here. Would they decide actually to bail on this thing? Like, maybe they would. even though it's a sweetheart of a deal for them in terms of what they're having to pay for the ACC, there is a lot of mess here, and it looks like the league is just going to go away at some point anyway, that it's not long for the world. But Jim Phillips does not seem to be very worried about that at all. So are these like George Kliavkoff vibes from Jim Phillips, where he, wasn't worried at all about the TV deal until it blew up in his face and then still would not admit any kind of fault for it? Or is this something more real? Is Jim Phillips actually more grounded in reality with this? I will say this. He has a little bit more credibility in my book than George Kliavkoff, even if I have been immensely frustrated with Jim Phillips at points throughout this process, namely his dragging down of the college football playoff process. But I think he's probably more to be trusted and believed here. And I think, again, because of the financial tilt toward ESPN in that deal, it still is probably more likely than not that they would go ahead and extend it. But it's something to watch, and Jim Phillips just kind of slips in here. That partnership is not going away or being affected in a negative way at all. Hey, look, if your position is we're just going to stand pat, we're going to chill here while Florida State and Clemson do their thing and we're not giving in, that's probably the right thing to say. Not invoke any sort of doubt at all that the ESPN contract would force things to come crashing down, because if they decided not to renew that, I mean, I don't know. I guess you'd still have another year. You'd still have time before that actually happens, a couple of years actually before that actually happens, but that would be basically signaling the end already, even before a Florida State and or Clemson would be getting out if that hasn't happened by February. Florida State's position is, quote, "We'll just wait and let the court proceedings play out." Okay. I guess Florida State, if they are confident enough that their argument is going to really hold up in court, I mean, they can certainly do that. They can certainly just sit back and chill too. This basically tells you we may be headed for like a really long drawn out process with all of this. It felt like this was starting to accelerate. Clemson was putting more pressure on the league. Florida State had already put a ton there. Again, they were going low in some instances. It felt like to just muddy the waters enough to make the ACC sick of it and say, fine, whatever, what do you need? Let's just settle. Let's get you out of here. No more of this. It now feels like you can put the brakes on that with what everybody is saying at ACC meetings this week. It feels like this will be a longer, more extended, extrapolated sort of timeline, and could get really, really complex, because if the decision is just to let court proceedings play out, remember, that's not just one case here. We've got 4 cases in 3 states. They're all in different stages. You've got some being put on hold because others are going on. You've got the possibility of like, all right, so if one rules one way, do the other states have to abide by that? How's that all going to work and play out? That's potentially a very long and convoluted process that we're staring at here. And that's the way this all seems to be headed based on what we are hearing from everybody out of, what was it? Amelia Island. I almost said Fort Amelia, but I was like, I know that's not right. Amelia Island for ACC meetings. This was another quote, by the way. I'm taking this from a Matt Baker article in the Tampa Bay Times. Another quote from Florida State athletic director Michael Alford when he was asked, is there any way the relationship between Florida State and the ACC is salvageable? Okay. Now, notice one word that does not come up in this entire thing. This is actually a fairly long quote. Quote, "We'll just wait and let it play out," FSU AD Michael Alford said. "We've had great partners in this conference, great relationships, but at the end of the day, we've got to do what's best for Florida State and look at the changing environment of collegiate athletics and make sure we're there to be successful." There was not the word yes in any of that. We'll just wait and let it play out. We've got great partners, great relationships. We got to do what's best for Florida State and look at the changing environment of college athletics and make sure. There's not a yes there. And again, if you're in Florida State's position, even take out the crazy Florida man acts that Florida State has done here, not really judging it one way or the other, just observing. If you take all that out of it, this is like a no-win position for Michael Alford, because if you're being asked that question, like, of course, the relationship's not going to be salvageable because of how much is on the line for both sides. but that's also just the reality. Whether or not you want to act irrational about it, there's not really, I mean, I guess there's a professional way theoretically to go about doing all of this, but feelings are going to be so hurt on either side. The feelings are so strong on either side. There really, truly is no way to do it where you're not going to be ruining relationships. And so the question has to be asked by the journalist. It has to be answered by Michael Alford here, but he's in a no-win spot. What the hell can you actually say? No. The relationships are not going to be repaired at this point. Too much has been said, too much has been done, and too much is on the line for everybody there. It's literally life or death in the conference, and Florida State views it as life or death for their school being at the top of major college athletics, and they may be right. They may well be right with that. That 30 to 40 million deficit is going to be a real you know what to deal with coming up very, very shortly. All right, we did get a super chat. Let me pop into that. If you want to join my guy Carson here on the show, click the $sign below the chat box. In order to do so, attach a donation to your chat, make it a super chat, pins it in a separate column for me, and guarantees that you get on the show here tonight. If you guys could also like the video, I would really appreciate that. All of that stuff really does help me. Like, comment on the video, share everything around. All that is great. John-Kurtz-4 as well on Venmo if you want to support the channel that way. And if you are somebody who leaves a question or comment with that, I will read it to kick off the next show. So you can still be involved even if you're not here live. Okay. The 3430 on Realign will be must-watch TV. Oh, 3430. Okay. Carson, I'm not used to seeing it numerically like that. The 3430 on Realignment will be must-watch TV. The question that I would have on that, Carson, is when does that come out? Because, when does it end? When do we... My fear also, Carson, would be that the 30 for 30 will actually just be on, the demise of college athletics. That we'll be getting a 30 for 30 in the year, 2038. That will be this is how college football got way too greedy and completely ruined college athletics by pushing everybody into a super league, and then that dwindling in popularity eventually because so many swaths of the country were left out of the game, and this is just a shell of itself, and now you've got private equity all over the place that's ruining everything. It could just be this is the ruin of what was once America's second most popular sport, college football, and just a great, great, great thing enjoyed by so many people. That's the problem, Carson. But if it is just hey, here's Realignment, what I would love is 2038. Hey, here's what happened in Realignment. Here's how some hero, I don't know who it would actually be, got us back on track. Greg Sankey got a nice utilitarian bone in his body, wanted the best for everybody, and we decided to adopt that 80-team Super League proposal, and all is well in college athletics. And now here's how we got to this point. That's the 30 for 30 we need. But yes, look, people, before you pound the comments, I understand that is incredibly unrealistic. Anyway, if you want to be a part of the show, click the $sign below the chat box in order to do so. Please like the video. Please leave all the comments that you can as well. If you want to know what Jim Phillips' pitch was, it's to hey, everything's great. Everything's fine. Nothing to see here. The ACC is in good shape. We do have that outline from Matt Baker of the Tampa Bay Times. So he says sponsorship revenue is at an all-time high. Okay, there's a start. Sponsorship revenue at an all-time high. The new TV deal with the CW network has boosted exposure for third-tier games. The CW happened, everybody. We made fun of the Pac-12 for the CW. CW's been busy this week. Here's another thing, just completely buried in all that's happening right now. The CW is going to be a part of third-tier games for the ACC. And then the CW agreed to terms with Washington State and Oregon State. So technically, in a way, the Pac-12 is going to the CW when we were all making fun of them for that for a long time. And as we discussed at the time, there actually are exposure benefits to that based on how far the channel goes. Certainly over if this was just going to be on streaming, like an ACC Network Plus or something like that, It's more advantageous. It's better than that. So, look, we did the Gilmore Girls, Gossip Girls, jokes, all that stuff. Get the jokes in, you jokesters, but it's actually going to be a decent thing there. I would say for both parties, for the ACC and for Oregon State and Washington State. That's definitely a win. Jim Phillips says, hey, look, we're going to reach 2 new major markets, Dallas and San Francisco, by adding SMU, Stanford, and Cal, while increasing the ACC network's distribution and revenue. All right, small wins, because we know Dallas is rabid about SMU, and we know that San Fran, nothing wins the day in San Fran like a little Cal football, boys and girls. Cal football. Can you even say Cal football without the juices just totally getting flowing? I mean, it gets me pumped up for Saturday, is hearing the words Cal and football. I seriously don't. I mean, you could say paint and drying. I don't know that there would be any difference there at all. Does nothing for me. The ACC's new payout system will financially reward its best teams. Keep forgetting that's happening, so that should, if Florida State wins the way that they think they're going to, tilt revenue toward Florida State. So he's saying, look, I mean, that'll benefit. We're getting better. We're doing this a new, modern, hip way. We'll kick a little extra money to Florida State, but it's obviously just chump change compared to what the Noles want. Quote, we remain and deliver the 3rd highest gross revenue distribution among all conferences. That's important. Yeah, I mean, it's not. It's really not, because you're not competing, even if it's saying like, hey, we're better than the Big 12. You're not really competing with the Big 12 here, because the Big 12 will take some of your teams if you explode, but you're just competing with the ACC or the SEC and the Big 10. And if you're not going to catch them, which you clearly are not, you're going to have teams leave, which is going to blow up your conference. So you can say what you want about that, but that's really not important to have any kind of one up on the Big 12 right now. The Big 12, much, much, much higher survival odds than the ACC, and that's not going to change. Yeah, now I'm reading from Matt Baker. Inserts his own comment here after we remain and deliver the 3rd highest gross revenue distribution. Matt Baker says, just probably not important enough to keep the Seminoles and Clemson and perhaps North Carolina happy. In the run-up to FSU's lawsuit against the ACC, the Seminoles estimated the SEC and Big Ten schools will soon make $30 million more per year than ACC schools, and that was before this whole college football playoff deal that, again, Jim Phillips was a big part of why we're sitting here now, where there's going to be an extra $6 million going to SEC and Big Ten schools versus what will come into the ACC. So Jim Phillips played a large role in that. He dug himself an even bigger hole. So that's a part of the financial gap that you're not going to be able to make up here. Jim Phillips, I do respect this. Jim Phillips says plenty of schools spend less and win more, which he is right about. And Matt Baker says financial juggernauts like Texas and Texas A&M have combined to win 1 football national championship in the last 50 years. And to that I say, Matt Baker, that is the kindest thing anyone has done to Texas A&M football in a long time, is lumping them in that sentence and saying Texas and Texas A&M have combined for 1 national championship in the last 50 years. To give Texas A&M credit, like lump them in there and get them in with that Vince Young national championship, boy, that's the biggest accomplishment in Aggie athletics I hate to say it, sitting here as a Kansas State fan, since 1998, dare I say, for Texas A&M, biggest accomplishment there. It's a hell of one. Congratulations to the Aggies. In fact, I think that co-national championship, or half of a title, I think it's going up on the walls at Kyle Field right now. There's a banner being painted right now at Kyle Field, showcasing the fact that Matt Baker just included them along with Texas to have won 1 national football championship in the last 50 years. Jim Phillips said, quote, if we're chasing money, then we're chasing money. But I believe we're also trying to chase success. Florida State's actions, however, suggest the Seminoles believe you can't chase success without chasing money first, which in general, they are correct there. Like, yeah, are there one-offs here or there right now in the current system? There are. Yes, there are. But we all understand the dynamics have changed, and it's going to be such a financial disparity that it will be really difficult to overcome. Really, really difficult to overcome. So Florida State is correct about that. Let me see. Do we need one more? Jim Phillips quote? Apparently there was no noticeable tension between Jim Phillips and Michael Alford. But here's one more quote from Phillips. He says, FSU and Clemson have the ability to do the things that they're doing, and we'll let the legal folks handle it because that's the right thing to do. Until the litigation ends with a court ruling or a settlement, Phillips said he'll keep fighting for his conference while trying to salvage its relationship with Florida State and Clemson. Again, I don't know where it's going to go, Phillips said, but I continue to remain optimistic. And Matt Baker ends it with a dunk, man. Ends it by saying that makes one of us. One of us remains optimistic about where all this is going. So there's Matt Baker's reporting from ACC Media Days. We have not yet gotten to the North Carolina portion of this, which we will do in just a moment. But first, we check in with our web. What's up, our web? 9 p.m. Kirk Schultz guest stars on Gilmore Girls. Well, he's going to have more time, our web. He will have time opening up to do that because the man is retiring. So now he'll have all that extra free time to become a star on the CW. Whatever it is that he wants to do, he can do it. I hesitate to. I know Kirk Schultz was a punching bag for a while, and I didn't particularly care for him during his time at K-State based on just things that were happening with athletics there. But I will say, I don't feel like this is the time. I'm not going to pile on too much. I'm not going to pile on Kirk Schultz too much right now based on how everything happened and what went down. The guy was just he had no choice but to be the biggest George Kliavkoff fan and follower ever. He had no choice. And he was honestly probably smart by him to control a media guy like John Canzano like a puppeteer like he did, to get him to keep spewing the positive quotes that like everything is fine, the Animal House guy, everything is fine, like that whole deal. He had no real other choice other than to do that. So, but yes, it is still funny to think about Kirk Schultz on Gilmore Girls. Thank you, R Web. Love seeing you here, my friend. Thank you for being here. Where do we go? Shane, what's up, Shane? Shane says Florida State and Clemson need to stick together here. 2027 is the big year. Main deal is up for option and Raycom expires. ESPN needs to keep Florida State and Clemson. Well, that's what makes February a very important date, Shane, because February is when ESPN will have to make that decision. It's well in advance that they reportedly have to make the decision about that. I know Andy Staples referenced it in the On3 article that I was talking about earlier, that February is when they can pull the trigger or not. And so we'll see. Right now, if the ACC is saying like, hey, we're not going to settle, like have fun, do what you do, we're not going to settle, doesn't seem likely that Florida State and Clemson would be gone or have anything figured out. I wouldn't think that the court system is going to be able to churn through everything to where we have like finality by February. That's a good alliteration. Somebody can take that. Finality by February. I don't think we're going to have that. So that obviously does make it more enticing for ESPN to just go ahead and say, yeah, whatever, we'll continue it here. And that's probably more the calculus from the ACC, right? If you kick the can down the road and they haven't left by then, no chance that ESPN can drop you. Although, again, if Florida State and Clemson were to leave, I don't know that ESPN is going to be the primary problem that the league has. They'll have a ton there. They'll have a ton. But appreciate it, Shane. Thank you so much for your support of the channel. Are we arguing about Cal, or are we just talking about Cal pros in the chat? I guess it's like fairly neutral on Cal there, but maybe I should. I mean, yes, Cal does have some very interesting pros between Aaron Rodgers and Marshawn Lynch. I suppose Jared Goff, we could float him in there too. They did. Deshaun Jackson was a Cal Golden Bear. I'll say nice things about Cal. They have had some very, very interesting characters in the NFL. There we go. We can all be nice. We can play nice. Do we want to play nice if we're North Carolina? I guess we're about to find out about that. North Carolina. My nose sheet will pop up. Here we go. From WRAL's Brian Murphy, who's done a really good job reporting on a lot of this throughout. He says the UNC Board of Trustees approved an audit of the school's athletic department. This was Monday, amid concerns and anger over the Tar Heels' revenue management and changes to college sports. So the Board of Trustees wants to audit the school's athletic department based on concerns about what their financial situation is going to be moving forward. Now, I would say, to me, the most important piece of this is later on when we heard from, and we got a piece of this quote earlier from Brett McMurphy, but Dave Bullock, who's a former chairman of the board at UNC, had this to say. He directly said he wants UNC to join a higher revenue league. Quote, I am advocating for that. That's what we need to do. We need to do everything we can to get there, or the alternative is the ACC is going to have to reconstruct itself. I think all options are on the table. So to him, there's no current end to the way the ACC is going right now. That is not tenable. That is not something that will fly. It's going to have to be the Frankenstein trim the fat conference, or it is going to have to be the SEC or the Big Ten. Says, quote, the conference is not acting as if it represents the best interests of the member schools, including the top tier of those schools, Clemson, Florida State, and North Carolina. This is a different board member, I believe. Who was Pryor? Damn it. Who's Pryor earlier in the story? See if I can find a Pryor reference to Pryor. Okay, that's Chairman John Pryor. This is the chairman. The chairman says the conference is not acting as if it represents the best interests of the member schools, including the top tier of those schools, Clemson, Florida State, North Carolina. Okay, I would just amend that to, again, I understand his perspective on it because of where he's at. I would say, yeah, is the ACC not catering toward the top brands? No, they are not. They're not catering toward Clemson, Florida State, and North Carolina. If you were to do that, I would ask, like, what exactly he's requesting here, because what could the ACC have really done? Are they supposed to be Robin Hooding this thing and stealing from, I guess it's not really Robin Hooding, reverse Robin Hooding, stealing from the poor, giving to the rich? Are they supposed to be taking Boston College's share and spreading it all out among Clemson, Florida State, and North Carolina here? This has been the basis of the entire Florida State argument, which is fascinating to see how it plays out in court. I think just in the court of common sense, you're kind of like, okay, you signed up for it, dude. Like, you signed up for it. You signed on the dotted line with all of that. You want to try and fight it in court, that's fine. You have every right to do so. But if I'm just reacting how I would react to it, it looks like, you signed up for it. But anyway, that's how they feel. The important part is, like, that's how they feel. And Carolina is becoming less and less quiet and disguised on how it is that they are saying these things. They're not trying to hide it seemingly at all anymore. Here's one more quote. Instead, the conference is acting at the expense of those schools to prop up the bottom tier of the conference in a way that I think is a gross abdication of responsibility, and I lay that at the feet of the commissioner. These are really strong words. It's that's the argument that you have if you're trying to fight it in court. I understand. And I don't really begrudge them for this, because that is their play. But if we're going to take the words like legitimately at face value, it's a stretch to me to say that they're propping up the bottom of the league. They're just fulfilling everybody signing a grant of rights, signing the agreement here that everybody's in the conference. They're just doing what has always been done there. What you're asking them to do is cater to you in a world that has now changed since you signed the contract. But it's not really how it works when you sign the contract. Maybe the courts will say differently. Again, maybe the courts will say differently. We shall see. As far as the rest of the board plans to meet about athletics in a closed session during its meetings Wednesday and Thursday. So closed session today, closed session tomorrow for the North Carolina board. It approved a top line of $134.97 million for the department as part of its all funds budget that is due to the Board of Governors this week, but demanded further discussion with AD Bubba Cunningham. Quote, I think it's imperative for the board to hear all of this in closed session, Chairman John Pryor said. I don't think they understand the level of bad data that has been provided, and I think it's incumbent on us to get it right. Trustee Jen Evans said the athletic department submitted a preliminary budget proposal with a $17 million deficit for the 24-25 academic year and $100 million in cumulative deficits moving forward. We have no plans to address that, to mitigate that, she said. I don't want anyone to think we're talking in code. There are real issues here, a real concern that one of the most valuable assets and something that really generates revenue is not being managed properly. That is the need for the question and answer, and that is the need tied to the audit. So look, no real issues here. It's just we got to discuss how we're going to bring in more revenue, how we're going to get more money. That's it. Then we start getting into Dave Bullock. Said after the meeting, there's an imbalance in the budget that has required shifting dollars from other fund balances to cover the cost of athletics. So North Carolina is in a little bit of financial trouble here, trying to cover some things. I know there was a note in there that like some of this went back to COVID. It's not really like a ton of mismanagement on the part of North Carolina or AD Bubba Cunningham or anything like that. Quote, Carolina's ability to maintain excellence at a high level is going to require really prudent budgeting and revenue models and potential cost cutting. A lot of it is due to the revenue or lack thereof that we're not receiving from the ACC deal. So again, not being subtle or shy at all about the feelings of where things are at. North Carolina becoming more and more restless here. Quote, it's not something you can chance with the snap of a finger. Is that supposed to be change? It's something we've got to be cognizant of. We can't sit back and cross our fingers and pray for pennies from heaven and thinking everything is going to work out. Where does that phrase come from? Is that a Carolina thing? Is that like a Southern thing? We can't just sit and wait and pray for pennies from heaven, think everything is going to work out. We have to actively pursue what's in the best interest of Carolina athletics. Yeah, I mean, again, don't begrudge North Carolina's position here. To me, the significance of this is they seem to be losing patience. And later on, where did I have that from? Good old Matt Baker, where he was comparing those quotes to the quotes of Florida State's board when they were getting ready to actually enter. I'm not coming up with it right now. Maybe I had that separated out for a different video. But yeah, that basically the long and short of it, if I can summarize it for you, is that Matt Baker of the Tampa Bay Times went through and figured out what North Carolina is saying right now compares very much to what Florida State said right before they went ahead and pulled the trigger in August. So speculation that this could be headed right for North Carolina jumping in on this thing and getting involved in the lawsuit. So there you have it. There's the North Carolina update that kind of set the scene. That was like on the front end of what's been happening this week at ACC meetings. This like was a tone setter that set up everybody having to answer questions on Tuesday and Wednesday about it, to which I know like the North Carolina brass that was there kind of said like, hey, just chill. I don't even totally know about this. Like whatever. Didn't have much of a comment. And then Jim Phillips, as we said earlier, kind of has to go Baghdad Bob on it a little bit and just be like, it's all right. You know, I'm optimistic that things will be okay. There's your summary from North Carolina's side of everything this week. Okay, the Yates 27. What's up, the Yates 27? And by the way, you've got about 10 minutes if you want to get something in. Getting close to buzzer beater time. Click the $ below the chat box in order to do so. It will attach a donation to your chat, which puts it in a separate column for me. Guarantees that you get on the show. And it's a great way to support the channel, support the work that I'm doing to bring you conference realignment, college football, college hoops content here on this channel. Much love to everybody that does. Could not do it without your support at all. Truly do mean that. If you could like the video, free way to support the channel, that is excellent as well. Really appreciate everybody who does that. John-Kurtz-4 on Venmo. If you're not catching it live and you want to contribute there, and if you leave a question or comment there, I will get to it on the next show. We'll kick off the next show. And as you see on the scrolling bar below, John Kurtz Show, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Make sure you get over there and follow those. I'm doing more YouTube shorts these days as well, trying to get more content for you guys, more ways for you all to interact. So make sure that you do that. Follow the show in all the different places that you can, and let's get those rolling and going. The Yates 27, not sure why ESPN would want to renew this mess. It's money. It's money. They've got live sports and pretty popular live sports at a low cost. Like the whole problem here is that ESPN does have such a great deal on this, because when they signed it, I guess people didn't really foresee the kind of dramatic split we were going to have between the SEC and Big Ten and how high their totals were going to go versus what it would be at the ACC. And they signed this long deal when at the time it seemed like the most prudent thing and the most important thing was long-term stability. So the ACC took that trade-off for a deal that was going to be, locking in a price that would be more advantageous to ESPN for a long time. Unfortunately, it's just turned out to be bad business by the ACC. It has not worked out very well for them. And so now ESPN's got live sports, which is still very valuable. It's just that there's not this endless pot of money that all the networks can throw at it anymore. It's much more finite. And that's exactly why for ESPN, they may say, well, this is great. College football is the second most popular thing we've got out there to the NFL. Let's continue to roll out these college football games, especially as long as Florida State and Clemson are going to be there. We'll continue to roll out these football games the way we've got them and take that at a low cost. We'll take it at the discount price. So that's really the reason, even though, yes, it is a mess. Yes, they've not been thrilled about their trade secrets potentially getting out there in these lawsuits. Yes, I'm sure they know the ACC is definitely on a timer right now. But it doesn't mean that it's not still a very good deal for them. But I see your point, the 827 for sure, because it's absolutely a mess. It is no doubt a mess. Texas Football Channel. What's up, Texas Football Channel? Thank you for being here tonight. Really appreciate it. Texas Football says, hey, John, live your content, maybe love your content. Oh, boy. Okay. Krieg Stinky, Deputy Fuhrer Petiti. Okay. Krieg Stinky. So that's got to be Sankey. Deputy Fuhrer Petiti and their brown-shirted henchmen will continue their scorched earth blitzkrieg until God, politics, and/or fans are fed up, paid off. That's an all-time comment, Texas Football Channel. That is an all-time super chat here on one of these live shows. Krieg Stinky, Deputy Fuhrer Petiti, and their brown-shirted henchmen will continue their scorched earth blitzkrieg until God, politics, and/or fans are fed up, paid off. You guys got to step up your game, man. Texas Football Channel just dropped a bomb on everybody. That was great. Excellent work. I'm gonna have to look up Krieg translation. So war. It says Krieg is war, so that would be war Sankey, war Stinky, Krieg Stinky, Deputy Fuhrer. I know Fuhrer is supposed to be like a leader or something. I feel like I know that much. And then, we used scorched earth, blitzkrieg until God, politics, and/or fans are fed up or paid off. It's bringing it strong. I love it, Texas Football Channel. And yes, this is why when whoever it was, I forget who had the super chat earlier about the 30 for 30. That's why I was like, dude, my concern with the 30 for 30 is that it will just be the aftermath of the scorched earth. Like everything will be done. It'll be the aftermath of the nuclear blast because greed took everybody way down the path of to the point of no return here. So I do tend to agree with you there, Texas Football Channel, and I love how you expressed it. That's how you do it. Lewis, what's up, Lewis? Appreciate you, my friend. Lewis says, just supporting you, JK. Love the rare times I get to listen in. Would love to see the Beavers and last Cougar team in the Big 12. Would love Georgia Tech and Pitt too. All right, Lewis. Well, thank you so much for the support. Thank you for being here. It's great to see you here. Always love it when you pop in. Beavers and Cougars. Look, from a competitive standpoint, yeah, it'd be fun. It would be fun. Last year, they were both very game teams and would have been good games for Big 12 teams to be playing. Georgia Tech and Pitt. I can get behind it. I would love the trip to Atlanta. I enjoy Atlanta. So getting to go to a Georgia Tech game down there, that'd be all right. That football brand's pretty stale, football and basketball. Georgia Tech's been one of the more kind of like out in the wilderness. If a college sports program falls in the woods, does anybody know, that sort of deal? That's kind of where they've been at for a while. Nothing against you, Georgia Tech, nothing personal anyway, but that is sort of the reality. But they're in a big market, and Georgia Tech feels a little bit like sleeping giant kind of thing to me. Like there's probably a lot more potential there than what they've actually lived up to. Pitt, it's fine. I don't know. Pitt really doesn't do a whole lot for me. they've had some moments in football for sure, but like I don't know what's going on with Pitt basketball these days. Is DeJuan Blair still staying there? Who was that guard they had? Pitt had a really fun guard there around the time of DeJuan Blair. Somebody get that to me in the chat. Who was the Pitt guard that I'm thinking of? Anyway, Lewis, appreciate you. Thank you. It would certainly make the Big 12 more interesting to get Georgia Tech and Pitt in the mix and give us some new trips to go on. Pittsburgh, lovely place. I do like Pittsburgh, the city. I will give them that. Papa Bravo, what's up, Papa Bravo? ACC commissioners and diapers are two things that ought to be changed, and for the exact same reason. Whew. All right, we're bringing it strong today, man. We had Texas football channel. Now we got Papa Bravo. ACC commissioners and diapers are two things that ought to be changed, and for the exact same reason. Yeah, ACC commissioner swap, though, would be sort of like deck chairs on the Titanic. Like, it's going down anyway. You could swap out the deck chair if you want, but we know where it's going. So Jim Phillips has not helped things. Perhaps he's accelerated that timeline a little bit, but still kind of the same old deal. But I love that line. Ought to be changed and for the exact same reason. Oh, boy. Papa Bravo. Good stuff. I see our web congratulating him too, as you should. Papa Bravo. I'd say we have two Hall of Fame comments tonight. Alan, what's up, Alan? Appreciate you, Alan. John, great show. We need to pull Duke and Carolina to the Big 12. Still trying to get the bad taste from SEC rumors out of my mouth. KU doesn't fit in the SEC. Jayhawk fans have too many teeth. My God, you guys, what has gotten into everybody tonight, man? This is excellent. I'm just ending the show on a freaking bang here. Alan's bringing it. Alan's coming after SEC fans. I love it. Thank you, Alan. Yes, if you weren't watching on Sunday, Alan made it very clear as a Kansas fan, he does not like the talk about Kansas to the SEC, wants them to remain in the Big 12. Definitely not an SEC guy at all there. Very much respected, Alan. Look, Kansas fans, I can confirm, generally do have all of their teeth. Yes, that does not. Dental hygiene, not really an issue around the great state of Kansas. Okay? Not really an issue around the great state of Kansas. Duke, maybe. Duke, you might be able to pull. North Carolina, North Carolina outside of Notre Dame is the most prized possession out there in the realignment game left. I don't think they're going to slip away from the SEC. I think they're probably going to be able to lock them down. But if you can get Duke and Kansas does stay, and then you may be able to add Louisville too when the ACC implosion happens. I mean, there is a somewhat conceivable path to having Kansas, Duke, Louisville, Houston, Baylor, all in the same Arizona, all in the same basketball conference, which is crazy. That's crazy. It is absolutely nuts. And I would definitely love to see that. Okay. Hopefully we just keep building on this because this has been freaking phenomenal, everybody. Alan, thank you for being the latest to throw in a really, really great comment tonight. Cyclone Steve says, report, ACC refuses to blow themselves up. That's a pretty good analogy. That's a pretty good summation of it. The ACC is like, yeah, we're not just going to go, light the fuse ourselves. If it's going to happen, it'll be at the hand of a judge banging the gavel in like 2 years. We're not going to do it ourselves. You're going to have to come. It's like the come and take it, the ACC out there, come and take it. Can we get like Jim Phillips' face on the little curly snake, the don't tread on me snake? Just get Jim Phillips' face, or maybe it'd be funnier if it were just an ACC logo over the snake's face in a don't tread on me logo. Like that's kind of what it feels like. So I like that. Cat Fan in Huskerland, aka Daniel Osborne. Wow, a lot of World War II references by Texas Football Channel. Love it. Great show, John. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you. Always love seeing you here, my friend, and thank you so much for your support of the channel. I echo those sentiments. If anybody wants, to bring some more war imagery into this, especially if you're going to be very funny with it and, take some shots at the SEC and Big Ten along the way. I welcome all of that. I welcome any and all creativity here. Let's get as creative as possible. Yeah, I'm with Daniel in the Texas Football Channel. Hive. That's what the kids would call it, right? Hive. I would have said fan club, but we'll go with Hive because I know that's what the kids would say. Anyway, Daniel, thank you so much. And I saw you have another super chat coming up here. I will get to that in just a moment, but appreciate you, my friend. The Yates 27. What's up, the Yates 27? ESPN is hemorrhaging money. The ACC drastically behind on money versus other conferences. But Jim Phillips acting like they have all the money for lawyers. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a cost, and it's not like they do have an endless supply of money. No doubt about that at all. In his defense, I will say the choice is you either pay for the lawyers or you just pay for your conference to end right then and there. So at least it's like I would view it as paying to fight versus saving money just so your conference, which you can say saving money just for your conference to end, but really that's basically like paying. I mean, it's a cost that you're having to use to fight the conference. So while it's not that you're directly spending the money, I would say that whatever the lawyer cost is, that's the cost of your conference having a shot at surviving for now and on into the future. I'll put it that way. But that it is a funny thing to point out. It's going to cost a lot of money to keep this fight going. It will not be cheap, and money is the primary concern in all of this and the chief problem for the ACC. So if they're to win and Florida State's got to stay, well, then Florida State's really stuck because now you got some money out of the coffers that went to fighting the lawsuits against you and Clemson. Anyway, appreciate you, the Age 27. Same for you, Lewis. I included Georgia Tech for its massive potential pit for the West Virginia rivalry and in your Big Ten face. Okay, well, yeah, the West Virginia Pitt rivalry would be awesome to have here. I loved, God, all this runs together. Have we done have we done Backyard Brawl each of the last 2 years on that like first Thursday night of the season? Was it just 1 year or was it just 2 years ago? All that runs together so much. There was the game that West Virginia absolutely should have won and lost. I feel like that was 2 years ago, right? Anyway, I would love if we made that a tradition. Let's just do that every year. First Thursday of the college football season. Get the Backyard Brawl out there for everybody. I do love it. And yeah, we're in agreement on Georgia Tech. Like being in such a big area in a metro, like they've got some real potential there. That's also a place where I'd imagine they've got some alums with some money, right? Being the nature of their school. So yeah, I do agree with you. There seems to be a lot of potential there that they are definitely not realizing or coming close to realizing right now. So appreciate you, Lewis. Thank you, my friend. And Cat Fan in Huskerland, aka Daniel Osborne. The ACC is the Britannic, the Pac-12 is the Titanic, and hopefully the Big 12 will be the Olympic. Okay, that's good stuff. All right, did the Britannic sink? And the Britannic sink. It did. Oh, in only 55 minutes. How did 1,000 people survive? Oh, that's kind of fascinating. Okay. And it was the Titanic's sister ship. All right. So the ACC has not gone down yet. Pac-12 has already gone down. Big 12 trying to be the Olympic and survive this thing. That's good. That's strong work, Daniel. That's strong work. I had a little mini Titanic fascination phase when what do they call that thing that exploded on the way down to the Titanic last year? That was like almost a year ago. When that whole thing happened, the Ocean Gate, was that Ocean Gate? Whatever that whole deal was, when that happened, I got very fixated on learning about the Titanic. So you're definitely pulling at an interest of mine there, Daniel, with that one. Appreciate you, man. And thank you for that. That's good. We're setting the bar high. We're setting the bar high for future shows tonight. I can tell you that much. We're setting this damn bar very, very high. And Payson Cougar fan getting in with a little buzzer beater action here. Go Cougs. Utah still sucks. I may have needled at Utah a little bit on the 3 Mile podcast from earlier today. That may have happened. We recorded it this morning. And I'm trying to remember exactly what I said, but I know that I deliberately went out of my way to take a little poke at Utah. Maybe it was like Cam Rising being his 17th year quarterback on his 7th knee, something like that. All in good fun, Utah. Look, I would pick you in the top 3 of the Big 12 for sure this year. But is there a little part of me that's like, seeing a lot of these national analysts just kind of handing Utah the title by default already? Like, yeah, there's a little part of me that's a little bothered by that. They do have a pretty easy schedule, though. Utah's got a pretty easy schedule. But anyway, Payson Cougar fan, go Cougs. Utah still sucks. Don't come after me, Utah fans. Payson Cougar fans said it, not me. I don't make the rules. I just enforce them here. And it looks like that's how we're going to end. We're going to end on a Utah sucks note from Payson Cougar fan here tonight. I will look. I've got a bunch of separate videos coming at you as I'm trying to do more content for you guys these days. Did not get to the Ross Dellinger update about how the most important 2 weeks in college sports history is coming over the next couple of weeks. We're already like in the midst of that, according to him. That's quite the statement. We've got this settlement not ending the wild, wild west of NIL. There's a lot. I promise you will see a lot more content from me the rest of this week before the live show on Sunday. So it is not done, my friends. You'll have a lot more here on the channel. As I ask you each and every time I sign off here, make sure that you spread the word. Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, wherever you can spread the word of this channel, continue to do so. John Kurtz Show, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. Follow it. Trying to push that as much as possible. Create more avenues for this community to interact with each other. Would love it if you guys would all go support things there. Thank you, Jamie. Just saw that. Appreciate all of you guys who support the channel. Like the video on your way out. John-Kurtz-4 on Venmo if you want to contribute to the channel there. That is a way that you can do that, and I will kick off the next show with your comments. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. Love you all. Take care, and I will talk to you soon.